Hey everyone, welcome to our video on questions. So, what type of questions are we trying to ask? Well, we want to determine the customer needs through a consultative questioning strategy. In terms of objectives, we first want to just understand some of the benefits, why we're using the sales process. But most importantly, we're really going to focus on the use of questions and specific types of questions to discover the needs of our customers. The goal really is to create value through this discovery. Now, reminder, where are we in our process? Well, we've already established our relationship. That's the approach that we've taken. Now we're going to focus on the needs discovery part of the sales process. Later, we'll discuss the presentation, negotiation, and close. But again, right now, we want to understand or accurately determine the prospect's needs and selecting an appropriate product. In order to do that, we need to really discover their challenges or their buying conditions. So, consultative sales process. Why is this valuable? Well, if we take a look at the research, we recognize some of the benefits. But let's first define what a consultative selling means. Really, what it means is asking strategic questions, listening to the customer, understanding, and caring about their problems. Once we do that, we can then select appropriate solutions, create the sales presentation. Now, the value of this type of strategy is that it actually increases customer satisfaction. We find that there's more sales that are closed. Most importantly, it increases repeat business and it helps with referrals. So, how long does it usually take for this process? Well, it really depends on the product. Okay, so if you just recall the differences between associations, meetings, and corporate meetings, we already know that there's quite a variance in terms of what the needs are. So really the pace, scope, depth, and time factor into how much time we should be using for our discovery. In our role plays, we'll be using about 15 to 20 minutes, using this opportunity to discover what are the buying conditions, what are perhaps some of the problems that the customer might be having in terms of challenges. Okay, but remember, this is a very important aspect of the sales process. In terms of dimensions of the needs discovery, we're really going to focus here on asking the right questions and getting that feedback. Remember, it's a two-way communication, and it's one of the most effective ways to have a successful sales process is ensuring that the customer is the one doing most of the talking. Once we establish those needs, then we can move on to selecting the solution. And this is where we're going to spend a little bit more time on the presentation. Okay, and this is where you'll actually match the benefits with the appropriate needs of the customer. And that's when we eventually get to the point of this presentation. So going back to the needs discovery, very similar to the spin selling technique. So this is discussed. Neil Rackman is the author, and he really recommends multiple question approach that involves using 4 types of questions. So what does a spin stand for? Well, first, it's the situation. So understand the actual situation. What the customer is trying to achieve. This is important. This is why we have to ask certain questions in order to get this type of understanding. These are usually considered survey questions. Okay. Second is identifying any problems. So there might be some challenges or problems that the customer may have had in the past, perhaps with different types of meetings. So this is a great opportunity to ask some probing questions and see if there's any problems that we can help solve. With those problems, we can also discuss the implication of those problems. How does that affect the result of the success of the meeting, for instance, if we're looking at it from a convention sales? So this is a good opportunity for the salesperson and also the customer to recognize the value of solving this problem. And in terms of value, we can also look at the final aspect, which is really the confirmation questions or the need payoff. This is an opportunity to really emphasize how we're creating value for the customer by using this approach. And we'll take a look at an example in just a moment. But just remember, questions help clarify the exact dimension of the problem, help the customer evaluate a range of solutions, and assist the customer in evaluating the potential outcome of the solution that is implemented. And according to the research, during this stage, we can increase our sales success by 17%. So this is a very important moment in the sales process. Now let's talk about specifically the types of questions we can use to go through this four-part process. Again, we mentioned the use of survey questions. Okay, so this is really understanding the situation. So here we have an example here of a survey question. And again, we'll take a look at a specific example. In this case, we're asking a question in regards to the food at a charity auction. So we want to understand the situation of that food. How was it? And we can get a response back from that. Okay, and depending on the response, we might get some sort of understanding of whether or not it was positive or negative. Okay, so the survey question helps us understand the situation. Once we know the situation, we can probe in a little bit more in depth. Okay, so here we have a probing question. Again, perhaps the response about the charity auction dinner was the food was okay, but we can ask the question, so maybe if it was more impressive, more interesting, perhaps in that charity dinner we could have raised more funds. So we're trying to sort of establish or recognize there might have been a problem with that. So this is what we mean by a probing question. Finally, in the next couple questions, we'll ask, again, a confirmation question, sort of confirming that, if that food quality was better. And this is where we have an opportunity to also emphasize what type of value we can add, right? So if we have an award-winning chef, perhaps, maybe if that food was prepared by someone like that, we could have a more successful dinner. Okay, so again, remember this is just a one-sided question, but the responses should be aligned so that the customer sees that yes, perhaps having that type of value, offering an award-winning chef can actually improve the success and the payoff. Okay, so the final need satisfaction is that payoff of that charity dinner. So in other words, imagine if we had that award-winning chef, we could actually increase the funds perhaps for that meeting. In other words, if we were able to have an award-winning chef, we could actually have a more successful meeting, right? So again, notice how this is an opportunity to not only understand the situation of what the customer needs, but also let them understand that there's a possibility to improve the situation from previous, okay? And you can see how this can be very beneficial, because what we're doing is we're actually not only identifying the problem, but more importantly, we are offering a solution. This is what we mean by solution-based selling. This is what we mean by being the consultant, right? But again, we have to understand the situation first before we can benefit from offering that solution, offering the right solution. So again, a reminder, survey questions, probing questions, confirmation questions, and finally, need satisfaction. Very similar to the spin selling approach, but these are the type of questions that you'll be using in order to discover the buying conditions, and you'll have an opportunity to apply these through your role play. So here's our review. Again, take a moment to be able to discuss or review these two objectives, and we'll see you shortly. Thanks for watching.